Alrighty, I very much apologize for that. Did not have the mic properly set up, but we are here now. Welcome to another edition of the GSMC College Football Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. We have a great show for you today. We're going to start talking a little bit about the NFL draft. The first round obviously happened yesterday. Want to get all my reactions to that and give you guys an idea of who I think won the day, who I think lost the day. And then we'll get into a little bit of talk about the group of five. Derek Dooley has brought forth a new idea for the group of five that could kind of give them a little bit more of the spotlight in the college football world. Then we'll get into a little bit of more news around the college football playoff. There have been some new details that have been released following some meetings that happened a couple of days ago that I want to break down for you all. And then we'll finish it up with a transfer portal update for the week. There has been a ton of stuff happening over the last couple of days and want to make sure you guys are fully up to date with where everything sits. But let's start, or before we jump in, I do want to remind you all we get tons of questions and comments throughout the show, and the best way for you all to get your questions on the screen, we can have a fun back and forth here, is to use the link at the bottom of the screen, gsmcpodcast.net. Huge help not only to us here at the network, but to you all. You get to have a fun kind of interactive experience here, and it's better for the both of us, I think. So, again, that's gsmcpodcast.net. But let's jump right in and let's talk about the first round of the NFL draft. There was obviously a ton going on yesterday. There was a very, very active NFL draft, a couple of picks that no one expected, a couple of trades that were a little bit all over the place. But let's break this down. We'll go pick by pick and then kind of give some overall thoughts at the end of this. But let's get into the first round and let's start up top. And the first four picks went pretty much exactly how you would expect. We had Caleb Williams go number one overall. I don't think there was any question there for the past couple of months, to be totally honest with you. Jaden Daniels at 2. There was still kind of a lingering thought that it might be Drake May at this position, but I felt pretty good about Jaden Daniels going. He ends up in Washington, and I think Commanders fans are getting that same RG3 type of vibe. Hopefully it doesn't end the same way, but definitely the same type of player. At 3, you get Drake May going to the Patriots. I think it's a great pick as long as he is not the starter this upcoming year. I think as long as he gets a chance to learn behind Jacoby Brissett, which is obviously not what you want for a number 3 overall pick, but it could be better in the long run. So I think as long as he is not thrown into the fire, I think he has the ability to be a big-time player. And then Marvin Harrison Jr. to the Arizona Cardinals. There was a little bit of talk around Malik Neighbors possibly stealing that spot. I didn't necessarily put a lot of stock into that, did not expect that to happen, and we got Marvin Harrison for Kyler Murray. So I think it makes a ton of sense. Definitely something that they needed to do on that offensive side of the ball and replaces that DeAndre Hopkins void that's been there for a little bit now. But then some different things started to happen. We had the Chargers, who were linked a lot to the Vikings in terms of a trade, possibly trying to go up and get J.J. McCarthy. They decided to stay put and just take Joe Alt. They definitely needed offensive tackle help. Anytime that you can protect someone like Justin Herbert, who can be as accurate as he can be, you're going to be very successful. So I think that was a great pick for them. That did push the Titans to take J.C. Latham. Now, that is not a bad consolation prize by any means. Both very, very talented kids. I think J.C. Latham is a little bit more of a toss-up in my mind than Joe Alt, but still a very, very good player and can be a very talented player for the Titans going forward and kind of help Will Levis as his blindside blocker. Then we got some wide receivers off the board after Marvin Harrison Jr. Malik Neighbors goes to the Giants at 6. I think this is a great pick. I think this gives them a little bit of energy, a little bit of edge that the Giants have just been lacking a little bit in the past couple of years. And I think he's going to be one of those guys that is going to make mind-boggling highlight plays pretty much week in, week out, just because when the ball is in his hands, things get very dangerous very quickly for defenses. So I think he might have a chance for Offensive Rookie of the Year. As long as they put the ball in his hands consistently, this kid's going to make a lot of plays. And then the shock happened at number 8. We saw the Falcons take Michael Penix Jr. from Washington, the quarterback, and you're going to have to bear with me a little bit here. I am a Falcons fan, but all bias aside, to be totally honest, I think everyone believes this. This is just a bad pick. Outright, I don't think there's many other ways to look at it now. we could be looking back in a couple of years and Michael Penix could be, leading the Falcons very, very consistently and being an incredible quarterback for them, and this could not be as big of a deal. But as of right now, it's just a crazy decision. You just paid Kirk Cousins an insane amount of money to stick around and be your quarterback for quite some time. Michael Penix Jr. has his injury history in the past and is 24 years old, almost 25 now. Just a crazy decision by Atlanta, in my opinion. But at the end of the day, if they felt that much conviction and feel like he's going to be their guy for, the next 7 years or 6 years or whatever it is after Kirk Cousins moves on, then I suppose it works. It's just another head-scratching pick in the top 10 for the Falcons, but I've become used to that. But let's continue on here. Number 9, it did go Bears, went with Rome Odunze. I think this one is just as safe of a pick, I suppose, as you possibly could do. I think the Bears for the longest time have been in the position of, let's just get the quarterback and hope that everything works out instead of filling it with as many great things around that quarterback for him to be successful. And that's exactly what they're doing. That might be the most sure-handed receiving core in the entire NFL at this point. You have Rome Odunze, you have Keenan Allen, who doesn't drop essentially anything. DJ Moore is a great player, and then Cole Kmet is very, very sure-handed. So it helps Caleb Williams a ton. I think Caleb Williams loved that pick, as you could see last night. So I think this is a great pick. I think it makes their offense incredibly potent. They will need a little bit of help on defense throughout the offseason, but it'll come, and that defense is only getting better throughout the time that Matt Eberflus has gotten there. But let's move on down to the Vikings. This is where we saw the first trade of the night. So a lot of people thought there would be a lot of more movement in the top 10, but it finally comes at number 10. The Vikings move up one spot. Not really sure why that was the case. Maybe there was another team threatening to move up to that spot to take JJ, but they grabbed JJ McCarthy, and I think this is the best situation for him. I think it's the best situation for any of the quarterbacks that were drafted in this first round. So I think JJ is going to be kind of thrown into the fire, like he will be the starter to out the jump, but he's going to be a really good player for them as long as he can, be put in the right situations and can put the ball on target, which is not something he's really struggled with very much in the past. The Jets get their offensive tackle help that they very much need in Olu Fashanu, definitely a guy that is very, very talented. And Aaron Rodgers, you need him to stay on the field. And getting a guy that is going to be, in my opinion, a long-term starter in the NFL always helps that. So very, very good pick by them. I think it's a very safe pick because I think between him and J.C. Latham, if I had to pick one to be more successful at the next level, I would lean Fashanu. But we'll see what happens there. And then the other quarterback went. We had 6 quarterbacks in the first 12 picks, and Bo Nix at 12 was the last of them. We had, I think this is a very, very interesting pick by the Broncos. I think it sounds like Sean Payton just really fell in love with this kid, and I think it could work. I think there is an ability to him where he's going to be very accurate. He's going to make a lot of the right decisions. Now the question is, are you going to put him in the really advantageous situations that Will Stein did a year ago at Oregon? Now Sean Payton can do that, but the supporting cast will not be quite as good, so it'll be interesting to see how he develops, but I think he can be a really good quarterback at the next level, especially with someone like Sean Payton in his corner. And then, in my opinion, the best prospect in this entire draft, maybe only after Marvin Harrison Jr., dropped in pick 13. I think Brock Bowers to Vegas is an absolute steal. Him and Devontae Adams is quite the duo to be throwing to. Now, who's going to be throwing to him is a question mark. I think Aiden O'Connell is probably their starter right now, but I'm not sure if that's their long-term plan there. I think they really wanted Penix. I think they were trying to trade up to possibly grab him, but never worked out for them, obviously, and they'll have to either find someone later in the draft or possibly go out and get someone that can start for them. But Aiden O'Connell had played some good quarterback in the past, so who knows? Maybe he's their guy going into next year. And then we had Tyler Fuaga go to New Orleans at 14. They absolutely needed the tackle here. There was no chance they were going anywhere else. He could be the anchor at left tackle that they really need. We already had 4 offensive tackles off the board before pick 4 or at pick 14. So just a remarkable offensive tackle class, and that really played a part in last night, because it did not stop here by any means. The first defender off the board was Liati Latu, a guy out of UCLA, very, very talented edge rusher. He came off the board at 15 to the Colts. He's the best edge rusher in this class to me. I think he's the second best defender behind Byron Murphy, but at the end of the day, still a very, very talented kid, and I think he's going to have double-digit sacks as a rookie, so I would not be surprised if he was Defensive Player of the Year, to be totally honest with you. And then back-to-back defenders happened here. We had Byron Murphy go to the Seahawks. It feels like the Seahawks love that interior defensive lineman that is a little bit lower to the ground, a little bit more forceful, and Mike McDonald getting his hands on this guy is going to do wonders for this kid. So very excited for him. I think he's someone that can really transform a defensive line, not just on the interior, but from an edge rushing perspective, can free up a lot of space for those guys. Minnesota takes the first two trades of the day, goes from 23 back up to 17, to take Dallas Turner, the edge rusher from Bama, a guy that fell a little bit further than I think he was expecting, but the athleticism is off the charts. I think having Danielle Hunter in that room is going to be a massive, massive advantage to him to kind of fill out the way that he needs to fill out, in the sense of just becoming a more complete pass rusher, having all the moves that he needs to have in his bag, because the athleticism is crazy, but the technical aspects still need a little bit of polishing, and I think Danielle Hunter will be a great asset for him. Amarius Mims is the fifth tackle off the board in this class, and he goes to the Bengals at 18. This is an effortless decision if you're the Bengals, in all honesty. I think more protection for Joe Burrow means remarkable accuracy and a really elite offense. I think pretty much bar none, there's almost no other way that can go. As long as you keep Joe Burrow clean, he's shown he is one of the best quarterbacks in the entire NFL, and I think he's going to take some polishing, Amarius Mims is, but the athletic ability is really bar none among these offensive tackles in this class. Just a remarkable ceiling on this kid. Jared Verse goes 19 to the Rams. They desperately needed an edge rusher, and they got a really, really good one. Definitely a very, very interesting guy who, athletic freak, ceiling is absolutely off the charts, huge energy guy in the locker room. So I think this is a great way to spend your first pick in however long. I felt like it's been, I think 2016 was the last time they picked. So Sean McVay this is his first round pick as the head coach of this team, which is a wild thought. But let's move on down. The Steelers take Troy Fautanu at 20, a very, very talented kid. I think this might be the best pick of the entire first round. They get a kid that was a fan of the Steelers growing up because of Troy Polamalu. They're both Samoan, and just a great, great pick here. I think this is a guy that is going to be, honestly, I think we'll look back in a couple of years and say this is one of the best offensive linemen in the entire in the entire NFL. I think he's just so athletic, so dynamic, and can do incredible things for the Steelers this year. Chop Robinson goes at 21 to the Dolphins. Honestly, I thought they were looking for a replacement for Christian Wilkins on the interior. I thought they were going to go Johnny Newton here, but they got a replacement for his energy. This is a guy that is going to bring so much great energy to the locker room, to the practice field, get everyone going for the day, and definitely be a really, really good player for them. Another guy that's kind of a wild card defensive player of the year prospect, where he could explode and go for 12 sacks in a rookie year and do just remarkable things next year, just because that athletic ability is off the charts. At 22, we had Quinyon Mitchell to the Eagles. This is a fantastic value pick for them. Getting him this late in the first round was probably not what they expected, to be totally honest with you, but much needed help on the back end, and I think they got the best corner in the draft, to be totally honest with you. Also, a very, very funny tidbit from last night on the ABC broadcast was Saban basically admitting that they were tampering with Quinyon Mitchell. They wanted him to come over from Toledo, but he never entered the portal. That was a very, very interesting thing that I kind of hope we get a little bit more of from Nick Saban as he gets further into retirement, where he just kind of lets these old stories fly that he probably shouldn't. But it was a very interesting thing that gives you a peek into how college football works on a daily basis. But The fourth wide receiver off the board came in the way of Brian Thomas to the Jaguars at 23. Calvin Ridley obviously has found his way to the Titans, so that was a huge swing for them, and I think getting a big physical receiver for Trevor Lawrence is huge. You can throw those deep routes that Trevor Lawrence is so incredible at throwing, and then you have a guy where you don't have to put it right on target, and he's going to make a play. So I think this is a great fit. I think he might just be their top receiver this upcoming year in terms of touchdown catches and being that explosive player down the field. Dallas trades their 24th pick to the Lions for the 29th pick, and they take Terrion Arnold, the Lions do. This is a back end that is a Bama party at this point. They add him to Brian Branch, which was a fantastic pick a year ago, and I think this is a fantastic duo. These are two guys that are as smart or complete as you get when it comes to whether it's a nickel in Brian Branch's case or an outside corner in Terrion Arnold's case. Both these guys just play football the exact right way you'd want them to. Corner, they are as polished as they come, and if you're Terrion Arnold, having the ringing endorsement of Miss Terry never hurts anyone by any means. So very much like this kid, I think he's going to come in and work and be a great asset for them going forward. So the Lions continue to draft pretty much as well as anyone the last couple of years. And then somehow I nailed this one from the clouds. I got the first four in my mock draft, and then things kind of went a little bit haywire throughout the rest of it. But finally, I get one at number 25. Jordan Morgan is heading to Green Bay at 25. That was the 8th Pac-12 player picked up to that point, so a great last year for the Pac-12. Very sad to see it go, but I think this is a great pick for the Packers. It gives them, another young, talented kid that is going to develop into a remarkable player and gives you protection for the guy that is going to stir the drink over there with Jordan Love kind of coming into his own. Need as much protection as possible for him because the weapons have kind of worked themselves out, to be totally honest with you, over the last year or so. Graham Barton goes at 26 to the Buccaneers, so back-to-back O-lineman here. A very talented kid that can line up pretty much wherever you need him. There have been some people that have said center. There are some people that have said guard. I would lean more guard at the NFL level, but a very, very talented kid that is athletic as they come. Played lacrosse in high school and was just a elite lacrosse player, so it gives you an idea of just how athletic this kid can be. And I think this is a great pick for the Buccaneers, and he'll be around for quite some time around there, I think. The Cardinals did get Marvin Harrison Jr. at 4, so they decided to go defense with 27. They got Darius Robinson, the edge rusher out of Mizzou, a very talented kid, one of the kids that I think some people were pointing to as possibly being left in the green room among the 13 that were there. He did not, and I'm very glad he didn't because that is always a situation you don't want to be in. He was actually the only person in this first round that had a raw athletic score below 8, but he was at 7.78. So just gives you an idea of how many elite athletes are in this class, especially in this first round. It's just remarkable how many crazy athletes there are. And then we get to the pick that I think everyone saw coming, but definitely was a little bit of a surprise that they traded up to do it, but the Chiefs trade up with the Bills to grab Xavier Worthy at 28. This just makes sense. It's Andy Reid saying, go get me the most speed you possibly can. They got the fastest guy in combine history, so I think it works out for everyone here. I think Xavier Worthy is going to be a great piece for them. Finally, you have I think full replacement for Tyreek Hill. I think you've had a number of really talented guys that have come through and helped kind of bridge that gap, but I think this is the kid that actually, fully takes those reins and becomes the player that Tyreek Hill was for them for so many years. But then let's get to the Cowboys. They take Tyler Guyton at 29 after trading down with the Lions, and there's a replacement for Tyron Smith. Honestly, you might move him inside. You might keep him at left tackle and move Tyler Smith inside to left guard. So tons of different things that can happen with this kid. A very athletic kid, played tight end and H-back at TCU before transferring to Oklahoma his final couple of years in college and moving to offensive tackle. Very athletic, can do a ton of different things. Needs a little bit of polishing for sure, but can definitely be a long-time tackle at the NFL level. And then we get to the last couple of picks here, and at 30, the Ravens snagged Nate Wiggins from Clemson. I think he definitely needs to fill out a little bit more in terms of being a more physical player, meeting guys at the line, playing press coverage a little bit better. But I think the ceiling is incredibly high. He also does have this little bit of a worry that it kind of formed throughout his college career, where he doesn't have that, goldfish mentality where you can let one play behind you and just keep moving forward. He did struggle a little bit with that, but if he can figure that out, he can be a fantastic player at the next level. And then the big surprise came. We had the 49ers take Ricky Pearsall at 31. Not what I was expecting at all, especially with A.D. Mitchell on the board. But at the end of the day, I think this is a pick that could definitely really help them out. The Brandon Ayuk situation is still a little bit in flux there, so not really sure what this means for that. But if I was them, I would have taken Ladd McConkey here, but at the end of the day, Ricky Pearsall has elite athleticism, and when you put a guy in Kyle Shanahan's offense, he tends to look pretty good. So, but then finally, we had another wide receiver go at 32, but the Panthers traded back up into the first round with the Bills. They just swapped 32 and 33 picks, so the Bills will be the first team on the board today, but they pick up Xavier Legette from South Carolina, just an outright athlete. He can do so many different things on the football field, will be a huge help to Bryce Young. You just have to make sure that Bryce Young has the protection to find this guy, because there's going to be a lot of deep routes, there's going to be a lot of stuff that takes a little bit longer to develop, and as long as you can give Bryce Young that protection, he can put it on him. So very excited for that duo. I think it helps out that team that has been building out that wide receiver group a little bit throughout the offseason, but this feels like the guy that they're planning on being their guy for quite some time going forward. They got Deontay Johnson as well, which helps, but let's get to some overall thoughts on the entire draft. First of all, 9 offensive linemen taken in the first round, 7 wide receivers taken, so just a remarkable class from both of those positions, and there's still guys on the board. You look at Ladd McConkey and A.D. Mitchell still on the board. It's just remarkable the amount of guys at the wide receiver position that can be very successful at the next level. We had 6 quarterbacks in the first 12 picks, I believe the first time in NFL history, 23 offensive players in the first round, another record. I expect it to continue a little bit into tomorrow with some of the wide receivers still on the board, but it'll flip pretty quickly to the defensive side of the ball. My 2 favorite picks of the first round are Terrion Arnold to the Lions and Tali Fuaga. I think both those guys are just going to be remarkable players at the next level. I think Tali Fuaga is a guy that can be just remarkable for... Oh, wait, what? Did I mean Tali Fuaga? I meant Troy Fautanu. I apologize. I was a little... got my wires crossed there, but I lean more in the Fautanu direction just because of his athleticism. You can put him all over the offensive line, and he can be very effective. So I would go Fautanu over Fuaga, although Fuaga is a fantastic pick as well by the Saints. But my least favorite picks of the day, Michael Penix to the Falcons is comfortably the worst pick of the first round to me. I think it was mostly a throwaway, but I'd love to be wrong about that as a Falcons fan, but I did not love that pick at all. And then I think Ricky Pearsall at 31 to the 49ers, a very talented kid. I just thought there were 3 or 4 wide receivers on the board that were a little bit better than him. So those are the 2 picks that are a little bit head-scratching to me, but definitely could work out in the long run. But the college teams that actually won the day, they had LSU had 3 guys drafted, the 3-headed monster they had on that offensive side of the ball, and Jaden Daniels, Malik Neighbors, and Brian Thomas. Bama had 3 players, J.C. Latham, Dallas Turner, Terrion Arnold, all really talented kids that could be huge players at the next level. Washington got their 3 guys after a remarkable season, all offensive guys, which should not be surprising at all. Michael Penix, Rome Odunze, and Troy Fautanu going in the first round. And then we had a pair of teams that had 2 players. Texas had 2 players in Byron Murphy and Xavier Worthy, and I think some people were expecting A.D. Mitchell to sneak in there as well, but I would have a sneaking suspicion he will be the first guy off the board today. But then Penn State had 2 as well, and Olu Fashanu and Chop Robinson. So very, very talented groups from all those teams. Definitely a little bit of a recruiting pitch help to those teams, but this is a really talented group of players. I think there is more athleticism in this group of players than I've seen in quite some time. I think the raw athletic score for this entire draft or this entire round was higher than any other first round, I think, of all time. So just remarkable athleticism in this group and in the rest of the class. Some of the guys still on the board: A.D. Mitchell, Lad McConkey, we talked about. Cooper DeJean is still on the board. Johnny Newton, a very talented interior defensive lineman. Kool-Aid McKinstry. So tons of talent still on the board to be had. Some guys that maybe you expected to go in the first round right there that fell out, but teams will be very, very happy to get them in the second round. So today will be very fun as well. Tons of defensive guys will start coming off the board very quickly after those first few wide receivers jump. But plenty of talent, plenty of guys to watch. And one of the very interesting things to watch is it seems like the Cowboys are looking in the running back direction and probably will take Jonathan Brooks at 56. If that were to happen, it would be the latest a first running back has been taken in the history of the NFL draft. So would be an interesting thing to watch. We'll see if he falls below 54 or ends up, not having to be on the wrong side of that history. But we'll keep you updated as everything happens. Definitely give you another update on Monday with who I think kind of won the draft overall and my overall takeaways. But we're going to take our first break here, and when we come back, we're going to talk a little bit about the group of five. They seem to have a little bit of a succession plan for the future of their sport. Derek Dooley, the old Tennessee football coach, is going to kind of back this and has kind of been the biggest proponent of this, but we will break down all of that and what it kind of means for college football right after this, so stick with us.